Now, you might be aware, if you have just installed Arch Linux, or if you've not configured Arch Linux on the power saving mode, you'll know that your screen usually turns off after so many minutes as a default, and that's in the X window environment. So in the graphical environment, it's like a default. However, what you might not be aware, if you don't do server work, or if you're never in the TTY, in the Linux console, is that the Linux console default is set to never turn off the screen, or not even to blank the screen. And what we're going to do today is we're going to change that. We're going to show how you can turn off the screen in the TTY, and I spend a lot of time in the TTY, and it's nice to know these things, even though I do not necessarily like turning off the screen, and I would like to have the option though. It's nice to know. It's a little learning experience here. So let's have a look at the Arch Wiki, see what it says about this. Okay, so the power management signaling, the display power management signaling. Okay, so VESA, whatever that stands for, is also the DPMS, enables power saving behavior of monitors when the computer is not in use. The time of inactivity before the monitor enters into a given saving power level, standby, suspend or off, can be set as described in the DPMS set timeouts, whatever. Now interestingly and importantly, DPMS was developed for CRT monitors. On LCD there is normally no difference between standby, suspend and off modes. And that's probably important to most people, unless you are still using a CRT, that really there's only one option, and I've tested this out and it seems to be the truth, and I will give you a couple of examples. So the most important thing here is we want the Linux console, and you might see there's something that can be used to set other things. It's like a bigger than just turning off your screen, and that's a setterm command. If you don't know the setterm command, so let's do man setterm. Zoom this in. So it sets terminal attributes. Okay, so it's more than just powering off your screen. So if I go here, if I search for it or not, why is that not finding what I want? Whatever. What is it? It's the blank. I'm looking for blank. I'm drawing a blank, but is it because I've zoomed out? Whatever. Anyway, let's do that again. Blank. Do it like that. There we go. Whatever. So so this is just one of many different options you can do in setterm. Okay. We will look at these in a second. So first of all, right, so in the Linux console, gives you some spiel about escape codes, what it's actually doing, and it's given three main options. Now really there's only one option. If you're on LCD, there's really only one option, and that is setterm blank, and we'll look at that. We're not too worried about power save, and you can play around with power save if you want, but the other one is power down. Now this will be certainly relevant for your CRT if you're using CRT. So we'll break this down in stages. So first of all, we want the setterm blank, and then you've got options. So 0 to 60 is the minutes. You can have 0 is the default, that is off in the Linux console, and then 1 is 1 minute, and so forth. And then you've got something called force, and you've got something called poke. So we will show you what that is. Okay. Now as you can see, if you look, I've got a blank screen. Okay, and that's because I'm in the Linux virtual machine, and if I press a key, as you can see, I've now come out of the blank screen. So as you can look at the top, I've got setterm --blank 1. And I'll prove this to you that I am in the Linux console. Now, interestingly, when it goes blank, it doesn't turn off my screen, and there's a very important reason for this. Not because this is a CRT, this is of course an LCD, but because it's a virtual machine. So it's not actually turning off the physical machine, because it's not bare metal. if this was the bare metal, it would look something like my laptop here. Okay, so as you can see, there's a blank screen. Yeah, absolutely turned it off, and if I press a button, it's turned it back on again. Okay, so to prove to you that that is completely turned off unless I press a button. And interestingly, that is the same command, so it's setterm -- blank 1, so after 1 minute it turns off the screen and makes it blank. Okay, does that make sense? Now the other thing therefore to say is the command I was talking about, the power down command, will not do anything on an LCD. Like it says, there's no difference between the modes basically. Does that make sense? So when I do power down, there's no point. If you're on a CRT, you can do power down, and we'll show you a way you probably want to do it depending on how you approach this. But before we do that, there's one last thing I just want to say about this setterm blank. So you've got force and poke. So if I do setterm force, setterm, what is it? Blank force, sorry. Blank force. As you can see, the screen's gone blank. Now if I press any buttons, it will not do anything. If I do Control C, nothing. Oh, Control D, has that done it? Oh, kind of. So basically it literally locks the console, okay? I mean, this is effectively what the instructions say. So let's go back into the Linux man page. So we'll go into setterm and let's look at blank. Okay, sets the interval of inactivity in minutes after which the screen is automatically blanked. Now here we go, the force argument keeps the screen blank even if a key is pressed. So basically can't do anything. So the only other way is to use the poke argument. But to use the poke argument, you have to effectively SSH into your Linux machine, and I think it might make a mention of it here, but you have to SSH, so that's create a secure shell from another computer to poke the screen back into life. Okay, now obviously I'm not going to do that there, I don't care about that, but again you can do your own research on that if that interests you. Who knows, maybe we'll do something like that in the future. So I hope that explains the most important one as far as I'm concerned right there. So what about then setterm power down? Let's have a look at the power down. Okay, so power down again gives you a 0 to 60, so 0 is off and 1 to 60 is however many minutes. Now it's the power down interval in minutes without an argument if it defaults 0. Okay, we know that. If the console is blanked or the monitor is in suspend mode, then the monitor will go into VSync suspend mode or power down mode respectively after this period has elapsed. So what does that mean? So let's reboot this because it is not going to respond now. Okay, so let's reboot and I'll show you, those of you still using CRTs, much respect to you, how you can use this. Now it might mean you need to play around with the settings, I don't know. First of all I need to put in my login correctly. If I knew what I was doing. Right, we're getting somewhere. So if you are using a CRT and you want to blank the screen but also turn it off, what you would need to do is something like this. So you could do setterm blank 1 if you wanted 1 minute of inactivity, screen goes blank, and then you could effectively then do setterm power off, I believe, and then 2. What is it? Power down, sorry, power down 2, and then effectively the screen will go blank after 1 minute, and then I think either another minute or 2 minutes, I believe, it will power off the screen, and then you have to press a key to get the screen to come back on and to come out blank. I hope that makes sense. Again, if you're on CRT, you probably have to play around with the settings. You might even have to look at the power save. I'm not going to go into that. I can't literally demonstrate it without CRT, but there's plenty of stuff in the Arch Wiki here, so I'll put this in the description. So one last thing to say, if you wanted this option, say every time you boot up, because that I believe is not persistent, what you could do is have a bash RC line that basically says setterm blank 1, and then if you're on a CRT and you want to power down the screen, maybe you could do 2. Play around with it, see what you think, if this is of any use to you, or you just wanted a little learning exercise there. Kind of just an interesting one, because it's usually all about Xorg, of course, and probably now Wayland, and we will look into this in the future. I'm not a fan of blanking the screen. If I'm not using a computer for a prolonged period of time, I would just power down the computer. Now, however, if you're, say, running a home server or something like that, you probably want, well, from a laptop or whatever, you probably want to turn off that screen and leave the laptop running, and you're not necessarily going to boot in a graphical environment. So that command could be really useful, and maybe there are other examples, or it's just a personal preference. So hope that either interested you or piqued your interest, but I'm not going to say that. But just an interesting little thing, again, about the TTY, things you maybe didn't expect you could do, and I think just nice to learn something that even if you don't use it, and who knows where it could lead. So we will leave it there, so you know what to do with the fake YouTube. You can like, you can comment, and you can subscribe, and I'll see you the next time.